Hello there, I'm Nicholas Lamar Soutter, and here with me, as always, is Ansgar Odinson. And thank you for joining us on this abbreviated episode of In Time. I think what we're going to do here is we have a brief message we would like to make, Ansgar and I each. And then I think we're going to take a break, and then we will come back to discuss what was scheduled for today. Essence of Thought is a YouTuber. She's on Twitter. She comments on a lot of things. I had heard of her only a little bit when I sort of recently rejoined Twitter and YouTube. I had been out for quite some time, and I'd heard nothing but good things. And when the Rationality rules debacle came out, uh, things started to head south. And Ansgar and I had decided that this was a topic we really wanted to discuss and was one of the first ones we wanted to do. It's actually already scheduled. I think we may, we've had a number of other interesting topics, unexpected ones come up that have sort of taken the foreground. We're a new channel. And so in addition to sort of building up our assets, building up the infrastructure for this channel, we're trying to produce quality content each and every week. So we have far more shows to air than we've had time to do so far, and we're working on a lot of new and interesting things for you. So this was one we had decided we weren't going to do right out of the gate, and it was a tough decision. We both really wanted to deal with the transgate, transphobia, rationality rules, whatever you want to call it. I think transgate is sort of the name most people recognize it by. Rationality rules had clearly had some really rather serious issues with his first video. In his second video, his follow-up, it seems to me he had done a very good job of addressing virtually all of it, and that I could tell Essence of Thought could only see the negative and was out to get it really from the beginning. And one of the interesting things Rationality Rules had said was that he really appreciated the people who came to him openly and honestly to discuss things. And he was attacked for saying that. Because that was a subtle jab at tone. There was literally, I swear to God, if you're out to get somebody, everything they say will be interpreted in the worst possible way, and you can make anybody guilty of anything. And Ansgar had suggested this to me, something on Twitter. In real life, you know what? There's nothing. They're like everybody else, and you know, we enjoy each other's company, and it's marvelous. On Twitter, almost half of the trans people that I know reasonably well end up in one way or another with this weaponization of identity, and it's going to happen on Twitter. The reality is, the anti-theists or atheists that I know in real life tend to be very laid back. On Twitter, a little less than half of them are so aggressive, I have to block them. And I'm on the same team as these guys. I'm on the same team as these guys. I have to block them. So I understand that on Twitter, you're going to find people who are looking for a fight. There's a fucking human being on the other end of that keyboard. And it gets hard to remember that. I get that. but we need to take some responsibility for our own actions. And there is a lot of behavior that I've seen, especially on Twitter, um, where if someone is trans, they cannot be guilty of anything. Any criticism turns out to is recast as, well, it's being transphobic. And even when other trans men and women come out and make the same complaint, then all of a sudden somehow they're thrown under the same bus. So there was a uh, woman who had come out in defense of rationality rules, and she had gotten attacked quite viciously by Essence of Thought and a number of Essence of Thought's friends and there's been a lot of accusations of piling on. That's a hard one. You know, friends of people they're not trying to pile on, but they all see it and they go, I don't know. But this woman had really had about all she could take, and then she ended up getting blocked by Essence of Thought. Now, my first engagement was with Essence of Thought was really rather terrible. Essence of Thought was attacking, of all people, Kyle Curtis, who I came to his defense on this. And on a stream just yesterday, I showed the tweets involved on this. Essence of Thought had inadvertently, presumably inadvertently, attacked Kyle Curtis. Kyle Curtis said, "Why are you attacking me?" Essence of Thought replied, the short answer of the substance of the reply was, "I wasn't calling you names, asshole." I mean, that's the essence of the reply. And I sat there and said, "You may not have meant to, but you did, and here's how and why." And Essence of Thought attacked me for pointing out that she had said this, whether that was what she meant or not. She had said it. Essence of Thought then attacked me, then blocked me. Then a couple weeks later, some people invited me to a D&D group. Essence of Thought saw it was me and freaked the fuck out and said, "Oh my God, he's a horrible human being. He misconstrued what I said and deliberately did," none of which is fucking true. None of which was fucking true. Now, I think Essence of Thought was just going over it so quickly. She didn't really just front. That's no fucking excuse. And what happened was she ended up reposting those tweets. And then she took one look at it and said, "Oh, you know what? I realize that none of this is as bad as she had thought it was. And if you look at it, it just isn't. But take her word for it. I'm a horrible fucking human being." Well, you know what? We all have bad days. And I'm willing to say that, except that this is apparently a pattern of behavior with Essence of Thought, who just attacks everybody. This woman was in defense of some of the claims made by rationality rules, including the claim that there has to be more study. Excuse me for her saying there has to be more fucking study. And she was right. Essence of Thought attacks her. She went and broadcast a YouTube video where she had engaged in some form of uh, self-mutilation. And I haven't seen it, but it's been described to me as somewhat bloody and extraordinarily shocking. Why does someone broadcast something like this? It's a cry for help. It's somebody who has done everything she can to get what is hurting her to stop, and it hasn't stopped. And the only way to get the message across that this is on some level fucking killing her is to cut herself or do whatever she did and show the world and say, "Would you please fucking stop?" What does it take to get a human being to that level of pain? Now, there are people who sit there. Now, she admitted to some mental health issues. That's fine. I have a news flash for you. We all have fucking mental health issues. We take a look at health as if everybody's perfectly healthy. Nobody is perfectly healthy, physically or mentally. Nobody. And every time you bully someone, you're taking a fucking risk. All of life is a wager, so it's okay. Sometimes we take these risks. How far Essence of Thought blocked her and then kept attacking her from behind the block. I'd be okay with the notion that Essence of Thought had no idea it would go this far, except when she found out about it, she, in essence, and I think Anti-Ordinary put this well, made a cry of crocodile tears. She's faking. I don't know, maybe it was ketchup, or maybe she just cut herself just enough to, you know, because I guess she's trying to send a message. She wants self-pity. In psychology, we call that projection. It's Essence of Thought who wants your pity. It's Essence of Thought who turns herself into a victim at every turn, at every chance she gets. I dare you, I dare anyone to go through her timeline and tell me that that's not what she's doing. She's the victim. And when she bullies someone to the extent where they are causing self-harm, significant self-harm, she makes herself out to be the victim again. This person deserved it. Why? Because she defended somebody who was, I shit you not, this is the claim, somebody who was advocating for violence against trans. The level of mental gymnastics you have to go through to reach that fucking conclusion about rationality rules begs your mental awareness and sanity. You cannot be sane and reach that conclusion. Something is wrong with Essence of Thought. Period. She blamed the victim and then cast herself as the victim by saying this woman was in defense of somebody who attacks people like me and who advocates for violence on people like me. The only human being I've ever seen make that claim of rationality rules is Essence of Thought, and she will beat the living fuck out of anyone who disagrees with her because she's a victim. Now, if you've seen this show, if you've seen anything I do, yeah, I'm normally reasonably balanced. When dealing with bullies, when dealing with people who enjoy causing pain, there is only one response. We engage and we fight back. That's it. You don't tolerate it. Essence of Thought is enjoying this. She's enjoying the pleasure of all of the attention. And the way I know is because she's doubling down and doing it some more. I don't think she gives a fuck at all about trans rights. She doesn't, because if she did, she'd care about that more than herself. And she'd sit there and honestly engage with people with whom she has a disagreement so she can change their minds. She knows for a fact. Why does she engage more politely with people who are actively opposed to trans rights instead of people who, yeah, maybe are wavering on the issue or 99% of the way there, but she disagrees with on a tiny, tiny portion of? Why? Because she likes the attention. That's it. That's it. I'd like someone to tell me I'm wrong. Good luck. I've spoken with Ansgar. We are a new channel. We need the subs. We need the patrons. But if you support Essence of Thought past this point in any way, and you are also a patron of myself personally or of this channel, if you are a sub of myself personally or of this channel, I sincerely appreciate your support. But if you continue to support Essence of Thought past this point, I respectfully request that you unsub, that you remove your patronage. We're done. It's time for you to move on. Thank you for your help thus far. I think that's about all I wanted to say. And Ansgar, I pass that on to you. Thank you.
So, what exactly do I say here? First of all, my thoughts are a bit disorganized at the moment. Just a second. Your camera has cut out, Nick. Let me fix that,
All right.
please.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Um, Interesting.
Um, you may need to move, discuss that later. You may need to move the camera thing up there. There's a second camera on there.
I see that. Something has. Yeah, something has interfered with the camera. Give me one moment to fix it, and then I will put in my thoughts.
All
Um,
right.
okay, I believe I have you now. There we go.
Thank you.
All right, so my thoughts here. Um, Having gone through something kind of similar, not to the same degree, not nearly to the same degree, rather recently. Yeah, this I have nothing but sympathy for what Rachel has gone through and how horrible that can be. But before, I don't want to necessarily make this a pity party for Rachel, because you know what, she has wonderful people who have come together to do what they can to help her out, and that's wonderful. I want to make this more about my specific thoughts on Essence of Thought. First of all, for those that don't know, because there were some people who are asking who this Essence of Thought person is. Essence of Thought originally condemned a video by, well, really condemned the person behind the channel Rationality Rules for having dared to make a video that questioned whether how we, well, really questioned how we should be handling sports, how we should be around the trans issue, and and it led to a big split in the community. It led to a big split among even allies of trans rights. Even people who didn't necessarily like the video or agree with it had problems with how Essence of Thought addressed the issue, condemning the person as a violent transphobe even. More recently, she has been going after anyone who doesn't sufficiently condemn him, anyone who is willing to be friends, anyone who's willing to associate. So there's that. So that's the essence of thought, or as some people on are calling her on Twitter, Essence of Thought Police. I am um in lockstep with you in if people want to support her. I don't We don't need that kind of support. um what I find more disturbing than just her ability to abuse certain people is I know people in my personal circle that are outside of this skeptic, atheist, agnostic sphere. They are people that I interact with because of, for other reasons, comic books, movies, believe it or not, I don't spend all of my waking hours being a, atheist, activist. I put that down once in a while. Um, and some of these people, this is their first introduction into what trans identity is. For some people, this is their first introduction into what the trans community is, and what they see is a group of zealots willing to burn people at the stake for even daring to question. And many of these people are going to be very ignorant about what trans is. Where we have to remember, this is not just a minority. This is a minority that represents less than a fraction of a percent of our population. Most people in their daily lives have not met a trans person. Most people haven't had the chance to humanize what being trans is and be exposed to that. And when their first reaction, I mean, their first interaction to what trans people are is people who are wielding their identity like a weapon against anyone who would dare question anything, that galvanizes people against trans people. That breeds bigotry and hatred. I wouldn't say justifiable, but understandable bigotry and hatred. If the first time you ever growing up in a more tribalistic society, the first time you ever met a person of a different color, you were kicked in the teeth by every single member of that color of people, you that would put a bad image in your mind. And as somebody who desperately wants to humanize trans people, and someone who is actually in my comic books, I have a story that I am writing right now where I flip sort of the trans experience on its head, because I want people who are completely separated from this topic to be able to understand the experience and what these people go through, having to deal with things like gender dysphoria and body dysphoria. I want people to be able to internalize that experience in a way that is palatable and understandable to them. And I'm actually writing a story in my comics just for that. So it kind of shows you where my headspace is as an ally. This is incredibly disturbing. To me, this does more damage to you know, trans inclusiveness. This does more damage to trans rights and trans allyship than any conservative asshole on a pulpit ever could. And that's my largest concern.
All right. Thank you, Ansgar. I think I misspoke earlier when I said we're actually not going to do another show later today. We've got certainly some things that we're going to be covering over the next week. We appreciate we're not going to be doing any super chats. We're not going to be doing any audience engagement. We felt this was worth making a statement, and we have done so. And thank you for indulging that. We both felt that this was a severity of a level that required an unambiguous statement. We hope, we know this has been very difficult on a great many people. We hope that people who are on the quote essence of thought side, and I'd like to reiterate that that's a tribalistic. I don't mean to say it's necessarily that binary, but
It's
people
not that, it's the
who
people that are defending deplorable actions. You can
yeah,
be friends with Essence of Thought and I don't care, but if you defend her deplorable actions, that's a bridge too far.
yeah, exactly. I think well put. Thank you. So we hope that those people will honestly consider this from what Essence of Thought herself would call a humanist perspective, and realize that there is a human being involved in here, and in fact, a great many. It would be ludicrous to suggest that this is the first person profoundly negative affected by this kind of rhetoric and by this level of engagement. And I hope Essence of Thought will take a step back, because this damages her cause, it damages other people, and strikes me as profoundly the antithesis of every value she claims to hold. Thank you all.
One last thing. You and I know we've talked about it, but I want people to know that we don't have anything solid yet. We don't have a solid schedule, but we are planning a show with some wonderful, beautiful trans people who want to come in and talk about the difficulties of being a trans activist in the age of social media, in the age when think people like Essence of Thought draw a larger crowd because of their reactionary dumpster fire mentality, because of the way social media amplifies the most toxic voices. There are people, wonderful people, like for instance the Lavender Lady on Twitter. You can look up. I think it's at Donkey Tree. I believe is her at or. But yes, I get some of the ats confused. But these people are wonderful voices within these communities who have a difficult time getting their voices out because they are drowned out by the most reactionary, toxic dumpster fire voices, and it is very sad. And I am happy to bring awareness to that particular difficulty.
All right. Thank you very much. Good night.
Good night.